Here's a good example of ways in which you can amend your copy of School Analytics and get it to include statistics that are of particular interest to the people in your school. For example, I've just had an inquiry from a school who wanted to add a percentage attendance today onto the screen here. And we're asking how they can do it. This is Power BI. There are hundreds of ways you can do it. So what I'll do is I'll show you the simplest way that I know that you can add a percentage attendance today onto this screen. First thing you'll need to do is make sure you've opened this as an administrator. You need to be administrator. Just a normal viewer won't have the rights to do this. But if you're the administrator of this particular workspace, you can amend these pages. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the edit button here. If you're not an administrator, you won't get an edit button, but I am, so I can click it. And it now goes into edit mode. And if you've ever used Power BI on your desktop, you'll recognize this interface because it's exactly the same interface. You can do almost as much up here. This is the web-based one. You can see we're in a web browser. You can do almost as much on the web-based version of Power BI as you can on the desktop version. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add in, I'm going to repurpose one of these existing card visualizations so it shows me the percentage attendance today. So I'm going to repurpose this percentage, this pupil premium one here, and you'll see currently it's counting the number of premium pupils, and the way it's doing that is in the fields well here we have a percentage pupil premium measure that we're using. I'm going to take that out and I'm going to replace it with a measure called percentage attendance. Now be careful when you're picking percentage attendance because there are a lot of them. If I start to type in percentage and the word attendance, you'll see that there are a lot of measures that will calculate the percentage attendance. I'm just making this data pane a bit wider so you can see them all. The one I specifically want to find here is the basic one, the standard one, the one, if you like, that we base all the other ones on. It's this one, percentage attendance. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to drag that across and I'm going to drop it onto the fields pane here. Now that comes up with 98.7, which is exactly the same as the percentage attendance year to date there that we have. But that brings us on to the use of the filter pane, which is here. I'll just make the data pane a little bit smaller again so we've got a bit more room. There's the filter pane. It's minimized on my view here. If you spread it out, that tells us what filters are currently in place. You can see at the moment on this page, we're filtering it so we're just seeing attendance for the latest academic year. If I hover across there, we have a column called Is Latest Academic Year, Yes or No? And if it's yes, that filter gets applied to this. So that's meaning that the percentage attendance is limited to a date in the current academic year. Okay, we wanted to filter it to dates as in today, as in whatever date today happens to be. But before we do, let's reassure ourselves here that the other filter we've got on here is on roll. So we're only seeing the attendance or the count of pupils or whatever for pupils on roll. The filters here apply to every visualization on this page, so they're already going to be applied to our visualization here, the card visualization. So all I'm going to do here is put a further filter on the visual there. And what I'm going to do on this is filter it so that the mark date is today or is within the last one day more specifically. And if I look for my date table, if you look down the side here, you should find a table that's called attendance dates. And if you look for the actual date entry here, you see it's got a little icon next to it. This is the date, 3rd of the 2nd, 2025, or whatever date it happens to be. I'm going to take this, I'm going to drag it across and drop it onto filters on this visual. Just make sure it's gone onto filters on this visual. We don't want to apply this to the whole page. That will cause confusion. So we'll release it there, and it comes up with this list, a simple list of dates. And if you had all the time in the world, of course, you could look for your date there and just click on it, and it will give you the percentage attendance for just this one single date. In fact, I could do that. Let's just have a look. 11th of the 9th, 2024. Put the filter on there, and I could apply that filter, and it will give me a percentage attendance. Well, it must have been 98.8 on that particular day. Look for some other day. 98.7, well, it's the same. But anyway, you get the idea. We could filter it to a specific date. Don't want to do that though. So I'm going to not use basic filtering. I'm going to take that off. Make sure there is no filter if I wasn't quite sure. I could have checked and just cleared filter there. That takes them all off. I'm going to go to, instead of basic filtering, relative date filtering. And I can now set this so it's in the last, well, 1 to 1,000 days. Or if you want to be in the last week, it could be in the last week. So if I put, let's put 1 in there and apply the filter, the percentage attendance now is the percentage attendance over the last full week between those 2 dates, and only the last 2 weeks. If I want to include today's date, I can tick or untick that box, and it strikes me that it's not particularly easy to see, but you'll have to take my word for it, that there is now a tick in there. So it's in the last 1 week, and that 1 week includes today's date in there. So if I want to know what the percentage has been today, I can just click on in the last 1 day, apply the filter, and that tells me what the attendance was just today. Now this is test data. I don't think I've got any attendance in for today's date, so that's why it's a very low figure. But hopefully for you, that will be showing in the last day. If I've got include today ticked, I'm not quite sure what happens with that if I untick include today. You'll have to try this for yourself. But whether or not that goes to yesterday, if I don't include today, I'm not quite sure. You'll have to work that out. But that's how you can put these kind of different filters on an individual visualization, so you can get at the sort of statistics that maybe just your school needs. Once you're happy with that, what you need to do is make sure you've saved it. There's a save button just there. So let's make sure it looks okay. Yeah, that looks okay. I'll assume that that's going to work. Actually, I'll just change it on mine so it's in the last month. So apply that. So I should have a value in there now. There we go. Percentage attendance over the last month. And I shall save that. And then once it's saved, I don't want to stay in the edit view. I want to go back to the original view, which is the reading view, which is the one you'll be more familiar with, which is basically this view here. There we go. Notice you can still change that filter if you want to. So that filter's still visible, so you can change that around to mean different things for you. At this level, I think other users also have access to this filter as well, so you can play around with that a little bit. Anyway, I hope that's helped. Shows perhaps just how easy it can be to make your own changes to School Analytics. One word of caution. Obviously, I release new versions of School Analytics from time to time, and you are more than welcome to have those copies. If you've created your own version, of course, the standard version won't contain these visuals, so when you upload the new standard version, just make sure you've saved your original changed version. To save your version, you can go to File and go to Download this file, and that will create your own copy of your own version of this report on your local PC. Okay, thank you.